Investigators say on the tables, you're going to see what they confiscated in this operation that dates back to March. And it's alleged that the operation involves buying the weapons in southern states and then bringing them here, which is also known as the Iron Pipeline.
Picture this, a McDonald's parking lot in Queens, New York. Children laugh as they run toward the play place. Parents juggle Happy Meals and drink carriers. And in the corner of that same lot, a man opens his trunk to reveal a cache of assault rifles, weapons that will be on the streets of New York City by nightfall.
This time around, several dozen guns, along with drugs and ammunition. The operation run at least part of it out of this parking lot.
This isn't fiction. This is the revelation federal agents uncovered during a months-long investigation that would eventually dismantle part of what prosecutors call the Iron Pipeline, a sophisticated gun trafficking operation moving weapons from Georgia to New York City. But what makes this case different isn't just the weapons seized or the arrests made. It's where these transactions happened, in the shadow of golden arches, where families gather, where nobody would think to look twice at two people meeting. Because who suspects a weapons deal at McDonald's? Today, we examine how criminal organizations have transformed America's most trusted family spaces into distribution points for illegal firearms, and how this Queens McDonald's case has forever changed how law enforcement approaches the fight against gun trafficking. In Southeast Queens, federal agents documented over 70 weapons transactions in a McDonald's parking lot. The routine was simple. A buyer would arrive, park near the back of the lot, and wait. Minutes later, a supplier would pull up, children's meals visible through the window, the perfect cover. The trunk would open briefly, cash exchanged for guns, the entire transaction lasting less than 2 minutes. Initially, investigators believed they were witnessing opportunistic criminals using convenient meeting spots. After all, fast food restaurants offer everything a gun dealer needs: high traffic for cover, multiple entry points, minimal security cameras focused on the building rather than the lot, and legitimate reasons for brief meetings. But as the investigation expanded, a more disturbing pattern emerged. This wasn't random criminal behavior. This was calculated, systematic, designed. The Queens District Attorney's Office has indicted 2 alleged gun traffickers who transported firearms from Georgia to Southeast Queens. But the investigation revealed something far more alarming than 2 individuals moving guns. It uncovered an entire criminal infrastructure, one that had specifically identified and targeted America's family spaces as perfect distribution points. As one federal agent noted in the case files, they weren't just selling guns. They were selling guns in places where we'd never think to look. That's not opportunity. That's strategy. The Queens case broke open when investigators expanded their surveillance beyond the initial suspects. What they discovered sent shockwaves through federal law enforcement. Similar patterns at family restaurants, school parking lots after hours, community centers, and even church parking lots during weekday evenings. The weapons weren't just flowing through one McDonald's. They were flowing through America's entire network of trusted spaces. This wasn't criminal opportunism. This was criminal empire expansion, using America's trust against itself. To understand the genius behind this criminal network, we need to visualize its complete architecture. It begins in Georgia, a state with some of America's least restrictive gun laws. There, straw purchasers, individuals with clean records who buy guns legally but intend to sell them illegally, acquire weapons from gun shows, private dealers, and retail stores. These initial purchases are completely legal. The weapons then travel north along Interstate 95, what law enforcement has dubbed the Iron Pipeline. This highway corridor connects states with loose gun laws to states with strict ones, creating a perfect supply-demand pathway. In New York City, where gun laws are among the nation's most stringent, these weapons command premium prices, often 3 to 5 times their original cost. And it's here that the final, most insidious part of the network operates: the distribution system that intentionally uses family venues as delivery points. But the sophistication doesn't end there. Many of these weapons undergo modifications in garages and basements along the route. Serial numbers are filed off, creating untraceable ghost guns. Some are converted to fully automatic weapons using easily obtainable parts. What makes this criminal model so effective is its strategic brilliance. First, it exploits America's patchwork of state-by-state gun laws, legally purchasing weapons in loose regulation states and selling them in high-regulation markets. Second, it uses family environments that law enforcement typically considers low risk, creating a blind spot in surveillance. Third, it builds plausible deniability by operating in legitimate business locations where brief meetings don't raise suspicion. Fourth, it creates networks that appear disconnected but operate with military precision. Cell structures where few members know each other, communicating through encrypted apps and coded language. As the investigation expanded beyond the Queens case, federal agents discovered this wasn't isolated to New York. Similar patterns emerged in 17 states. What had begun as dozens of weapons became thousands annually. The sophistication of modifications increased, with military-grade alterations happening in civilian garages, and the market expanded from street gangs to suburban buyers seeking weapons without background checks. This revelation collapsed all previous assumptions. This wasn't about individual criminals or even local gangs. This was about criminal organizations studying American society, identifying our blind spots, and building systematic exploitation networks. The iron pipeline wasn't just a catchy prosecutor term. It was just one artery in a criminal circulatory system that had learned to use our freedoms against our safety. The Queens McDonald's bust transformed the landscape of gun trafficking investigations. Family spaces now require security assessments. Interstate commerce faces new criminal scrutiny. Local law enforcement must think like international investigators. Federal agencies coordinate in unprecedented ways. But from this crisis emerged unexpected resilience. Community awareness has created civilian intelligence networks with restaurant employees, school security personnel, and community center staff now trained to recognize potential trafficking activities. Technology integration has turned smartphones into evidence collectors, with anonymous reporting apps allowing citizens to document suspicious behavior without endangering themselves. Multi-agency cooperation has achieved coordination levels previously seen only in terrorism investigations, with ATF, FBI, state police, and local departments sharing real-time intelligence. Legislative responses are closing loopholes faster than ever, with targeted laws addressing specific vulnerabilities in the distribution chain rather than broad gun control measures that often stall in political gridlock. From this criminal sophistication has emerged investigative evolution. Law enforcement now employs predictive mapping that identifies vulnerable locations before exploitation occurs, analyzing factors like proximity to interstate highways, distance from police stations, and density of family-oriented businesses. Pattern recognition software that catches networks in formation stages by identifying unusual purchase patterns across state lines and suspicious movement along known trafficking corridors. Community partnerships that turn potential targets into detection systems, with business owners receiving training and secure channels to report concerning activity. Intelligence sharing platforms that create real-time criminal tracking, allowing an officer in Georgia to immediately alert counterparts in New York about suspicious purchases or known traffickers heading north. This represents a fundamental shift in how America fights organized crime. The old reality was chasing individual criminals after crimes occurred. The new reality is anticipating criminal infrastructure and dismantling systems before they mature. The old strategy was reacting to criminal innovation. The new strategy is proactively protecting vulnerability points before they can be exploited. The old success metric was individual arrests and seizures. How many guns, how many criminals? The new success metric is network dismantlement and prevention. How many systems disrupted before they become operational? The Queens McDonald's bust wasn't just about stopping two gun traffickers. It was about federal law enforcement proving they could adapt faster than criminal evolution. The message sent to criminal organizations was clear. Your systematic approach to exploiting American society now faces an equally systematic response. This case reveals a sobering truth. Criminal empires have been studying America better than Americans have been studying criminal empires. Until now, the war hasn't ended. It has evolved, and for the first time, America's defenders are writing the playbook instead of just responding to it. In parking lots where children once played unknowingly beside gun deals, law enforcement now sees with new eyes. In communities once exploited for their trust, citizens now participate in their own protection. And in the battle between those who would exploit our freedoms and those who would protect them, the advantage has finally shifted. The McDonald's revelation didn't just expose a criminal network. It exposed our vulnerabilities, our blind spots, our assumptions, and in doing so, it gave us the opportunity to transform them into strengths. The next time you pull into a fast food parking lot with your family, take comfort in knowing that the same spaces once exploited by gun traffickers are now among the most monitored, most protected, and most resilient against criminal exploitation. The most American of spaces, our family restaurants, our community centers, our gathering places, are being reclaimed, not just through force or surveillance, but through awareness, community involvement, and a new understanding of how to protect what matters most. This is the legacy of the McDonald's revelation, a nation awakened not just to a threat, but to its own power to evolve faster than those who would harm it.